I think this is a time to congratulate Toronto. You know, I moved to Toronto 10 years ago, and this kind of decision was unfathomable. I'd actually move Toronto higher up that list. I think of the 20, Toronto is in the top 5.
In my hands is the official bid Toronto and the surrounding region sent into tech giant Amazon, and obviously it did pretty well. I'm Adrian Gobriel.
And I'm Stella Quisto, and yes, Toronto has made the cut. We're among 20 cities that could potentially be the next new home for Amazon's headquarters, and believe it or not, it could be, the next location could be down the street.
And they're also looking at a location at Yonge and Queen, as well as in the East End. Now ahead on City News, I'll be looking at the impact if Amazon was to come to Toronto, it could have on things like affordable housing in the city, as well as gridlock and transit.
But right now we're going to take a look at the likelihood of us actually getting this top bid.
We have put a bid forward largely on the basis of quality of life, the ability that this city region has to attract talent from around the world and to grow talent at home. And I think in the end that is why we made the playoffs, and I think it is what is going to carry us through quality of life and the availability of a rich pool of talent, which we're prepared to add to.
Amazon HQ2 will be Amazon's second headquarters in North America after Seattle. The tech giant is expected to invest over $5 billion in the construction of the new headquarters, and as many as 50,000 high-paying jobs will be created. They requested cities across North America to submit bids. They received 238 applications. Now we're down to 20.
The focus of our efforts has been talking about the kind of talent that we have at the table because of the training, because of the investments. I'm sure there are other infrastructure components in this, but I know that from the very beginning we've stressed that that's the focus of what makes Ontario, what makes the GTHA particularly appealing for organizations or companies like Amazon, and I believe that's what we'll continue to stress.
Now the question is, do we have a chance at making the final cut?
I've learned, whether it's in sports or in politics or in business, it's unwise to make bets. I just know we've made the playoffs, and I'm thrilled about that. I'm thrilled that we're Canada's team now, and I'm proud that our city region is going to represent this country, and I think this country and this city have a lot going for them in terms of saying to Amazon, this is a great place to do business. So we'll regroup and find out what they want in the second round, and we'll do our very best.
What's the likelihood that we'll actually get this?
I think it's hard to say. I think if it was just on fundamentals, Toronto would be very competitive. And by that I mean the strength of our workforce, our standard of living, quality of life here in Toronto, infrastructure, a lot of the things that Amazon actually highlighted in their bid when they were looking for proposals. The kind of intangible parts that are hard to determine is how much do financial incentives come into play, and how about the U.S. political environment? Would Amazon actually set up a headquarters outside of the U.S. at this point in time?
As for being the only Canadian city on the list, it's hard to know if that will play a role in the decision making.
It's really in the mind of an enigmatic billionaire, Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO of Amazon, and he's been known to think in the long term. Setting up in Toronto with all our natural advantages and our ability to attract people internationally could be a strength, but at the same time there'd almost certainly be a backlash from the United States. Donald Trump has criticized Jeff Bezos already for different things that Amazon has done. So maybe, would Amazon be willing to weather that storm? I think is the question that only Jeff Bezos is going to be able to answer.
Now, Amazon is being pretty tight-lipped when it comes to the next steps, but they do say they will be releasing more information later this year.
Go ahead on City News, Stella. I'm also going to be looking at the impacts Amazon had in their current home city in Seattle, the impacts they had on the average salary, the median household income, and what that could mean for Toronto. 50,000 high-paying jobs, billions in investments. Whichever city Amazon decides to move its new world headquarters to, well, the deal sounds pretty rich, and it also sounds pretty sweet. Now, as we told you earlier on City News at 5 and 6, in large part thanks to this pitch right here, which was sent to Amazon. Toronto was on the short list as one of 20 potential cities for Amazon to move its new second world headquarters to. Though when you look at tech-rich cities and you peel back the layers, you find there are some warts. Look at Seattle, for example. That is the current home of Amazon. They've got some issues there. Now, stop me if you've heard these before. They've got issues like skyrocketing housing and gridlock, and a lot of people in that city are pointing the finger directly at the tech giant. And some experts I spoke with today say Toronto should be careful what they wish for.
We do not have any redundancy for highways, freeways, or now even with the subway system. What we need is further improvement in the capacity of the systems. We don't have that kind of capacity in the system to accommodate large numbers. It just not necessarily is a concern about Amazon. It's a concern about any rapid development. If someone else comes in and say we're going to put 50,000 employees in downtown Toronto, we should be concerned.
Now, these are the pages of the Global Toronto bid. It's a pretty detailed report right here. Now, I spoke with two people today who were part of this bid. One of them, Mayor John Tory. The other one is Richard Florida. He's a professor at U of T, and both of them agree when it comes to housing and housing prices, Toronto has a ways to go, especially if it wants to lure the likes of Amazon.
Amazon's behavior in Seattle is a concern generally. I mean, they drove prices up. They are a big contributor to the housing affordability problem. It's the housing side where we have huge, huge issues. And I think that could be, look, it tells us something. If we're going to be a global city, the place we really have to work in Toronto is on housing and housing affordability. That is the one thing that becomes our Achilles heel. With Amazon and with other projects and with our own future, we've got to work on it.
We have a big job to do there to make sure that we offer that affordable, range of housing for people that will make sure that people who come here to work in any kind of job, whether they're working for Amazon or anybody else, the people who are already here have an affordable place to live in a growing, dynamic, and expensive city.
Well, we'd welcome Amazon coming here, and we'd welcome those new jobs. We'd want to make sure, though, that the City of Toronto remains an affordable place for everybody else, as well as those people who work in Amazon.
Another concern, the widening gap in wage inequality should Toronto win the bid. For example, the average salary in this city is $58,000. In Seattle, the home of Amazon, the average salary is nearly $30,000 more, with the average salary in tech-savvy San Fran at just over $100,000 Canadian. When it comes to income disparity in Seattle, it's not a pretty picture. 20% of households earn just $13,000 a year, while the top 5% earn roughly $423,000 a year. Some see this, though, as a unique opportunity for Toronto to set a new standard.
But I will guess that a dozen to 15 of those places on that list have worse income and wage inequality than does Toronto. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Boston, Washington, D.C., Miami are all at the very tippy top of unequal cities. And so in a way, Amazon is looking at these thriving cities which already are unequal. And I think Toronto needs to take a stand here and say we want to grow, we want technology, we want innovation, but we don't want the inequality and segregation and segmentation that comes with it.
Now, big dollars like Amazon could bring to Toronto also stimulate an economy. We do get that. Now, one indication of Amazon's power, back in 2015, the average household income went above $80,000. They had a $10,000 increase in just 1 year. And as for the average computer programmer at Amazon, they make $150,000 a year.